There you go. Okay. Let me go in here and let's see how it's looking on the screen. Might have to go to a different. Might have to drop out of that one and go to. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. Actually, are you looking at it on that screen?
I am.
It can actually be moved up a little bit closer.
How's that?
Turn it to the right, just a tad. Oh,
I ain't touched it.
okay, that's good then. There's a delay, so I don't know. What I'm seeing is a few seconds behind what it is. It's good.
That's me coming back over.
Have you got no big screen on there? Alright, so what I want to do now is go get music and I might try to get him. I'll get you sure.
I'm trying to think.
We're gonna make this happen. Why don't you make that noise? What are you gonna get the music?
I'm trying.
Okay, quit. No, wait, stop for. You know we're broadcasting live, don't you? Who the heck is that?
We are concerned. You know what? I see her.
Yeah, and I saw your video. This dog talking to you.
That was amazing.
Well, we're gonna stream it differently. I think it's gonna be smoother.
Okay.
You can hear it. It's a delay. So, welcome. Frank's gonna be here,
Good.
and so you got competition tonight. I'm sorry.
Oh, boy.
And so you're not gonna come to the beach with us, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Just pick a place, set up a table, and
No, we are live.
yeah, we are live. So
We
everybody's
are
watching.
live now.
Say hello.
Hello.
Kevin Kane is already here. This man is the best. He don't play. He's serious about his stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Where's the camera?
It's I'm doing it with my camera.
Oh, your iPad. Okay.
Yeah, there's not for some reason the camera I want to use has so much data compressed in it that in here, for some reason, it's not getting out very good, so.
Oh,
So we're just gonna do it with that.
oh, okay.
And, gradually, we'll have people actually show up here, and that's when you can do more.
Yeah.
And, not tell people, you know, it's like, hey, what's religion? Talk about supernatural, right? So you're not scared of it. You want to know more, right? Replace fear of the unknown with curiosity.
Yeah.
And, how long you been talking to these dogs?
5 years.
5 years. And you're still alive?
13, almost 6 years.
You're still alive?
Yeah.
Don't see any scars on you?
Um,
You want any coffee or anything?
yeah, I'll get coffee. I got
Okay.
some today from all that junk I did to me.
What the, oh yeah, how'd that go?
Fine.
Good. Good.
I did a whole exam and discovered I'm empty-headed.
Join the crowd.
I said, I paid for that.
Yeah. They found a spider one time.
They poked me with everything.
Oh my goodness, what do you have, a complete?
And a complete allergy test.
Well, what,
Turns out I'm allergic to everything and didn't know it.
well, I was too. I went through that up at Vanderbilt Allergy Clinic up in Nashville. Same thing, and it's like, the amount of money it would have cost me monthly to protect myself from all these allergies,
Yeah.
I couldn't. It's like, it was ridiculous. It's like, wait, you got this, you got this, you got this. It's like, that's tougher.
So he went up my nose and probed, and this passage is fine, but this one's all crooked. He couldn't even get his thing there.
Have you had your nose
Figure out-
broke before?
No, that's what's so strange about it. I didn't even know.
I don't know. Have you lived
And
with
this
that all
is
your
the
life?
side, I guess so. This side always gets crooked the easiest.
He's got a crooked nose on one side.
Yeah.
We knew there was something crooked about him. Didn't know what part it was.
Is music okay?
Yeah, just background music.
2 weeks from now, I'll be in Savannah.
Yeah, I'm envious as heck. You know that, right?
I set up a ghost tour and a history tour.
This is your first trip.
Yes, been my first
And let's see, was that the Spanish flu that got those? Yeah, I think it was Spanish flu that got those guys. I know what Frank could do, but like this stuff. I'll be darned.
I guess I'll be reminded when I get down there.
Well, yeah, I've been to Savannah more than once. It's, you'll be up all night roaming the streets.
Yeah. There's nothing else wondering out. Is it really dangerous or just the
Oh, no.
sheer?
No, there's one strip down by the waterfront that's like, almost like Bourbon Street, people partying, you know. It's not as wild as Mardi Gras, but it's just a lot of bars and whatnot. The rest of the town is like pretty sedate. I'm not gonna say it's crime free, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot safer than Birmingham.
I just want to make sure that starting and ending part of that ghost tour, we're driving on Marshall House, but I had to walk down the alleyway. I thought, I noticed that one.
Now, unless it's changed dramatically since I've been out there, and I mean, it's the most peaceful, romantic little town, and, you know, I never felt any danger anytime, day or night, from anywhere.
One I can't wait to visit. I'm gonna go in Bonaventure and go pay Gracie Watson's gravesite.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Yep,
The little
yep.
girl with the statue on her grave.
Yeah?
What's that?
I should move that trash can over there.
I might take a toy to her.
Donate one of your dogs to her?
Oh,
You changed
I don't
your
want to do that.
mind.
I'll get
You're going to the toy store to buy her a new one, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a little ball, something I can throw over the gate to her.
Oh, well. Yeah, I think I don't remember I've had it for a long, long time. Yeah. I don't work with eBay and I don't even know how to run around or that, but it's a heavy duty, it's a serious one. In other words, the only one I don't get, we pay sanctuary.
Gotcha.
Right back here in the corners. I know that's the only thing you're in the office right there. uh,
He's a virgin. It's a nice setup you got here.
well, Okay,
That's,
knock it out, and maybe we can get somebody to help us refresh
yeah,
it.
yeah. I bet I can get Kevin to help me out.
We've had a very,
Is there any even left?
after our conversation, Kevin said he's no longer coming back here.
No comments.
I hope you know better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He's got to get some more coffee. Then we're gonna have a holy rolling Pentecostal service here. I think, well, she's all in, so
Yeah.
y'all just sit over there together.
Y'all filming this?
I hate to see him.
On the old audience.
Right here.
Go put the dog in between you and Frank.
I guess. I can sit here. Sit there.
All right, guys, come on, Frank, have a seat. We're just going. We're gonna kind of get in up here, man. Up here, sit up here. You are the star. I'm just asking, talking. I'm just asking questions. Come on, join us.
Up there?
No, right here in the front row.
Oh, no.
We gotta ask some questions to these guys.
Oh.
All right, I know that we've already been live streaming for a while. You probably heard some interesting conversation. Just ignore that. Let's have fun. Joining us today, and we want to fill these seats up because these guys never get their question and answer session at the big convention we had a couple of weeks ago. It's hard to believe we got through that, right? And Kevin and his haunted dolls, he sold out of books, and he was a very popular guy. Frank, he didn't have anything to sell, but they took pictures of it. Frank has done paranormal research for what, 20 years? 20 years. And we're just going to start out just having an informal discussion for an hour or so here, live streaming, until we build up enough interest. What I'm working on, just so you guys know, is I've got all the email addresses of all these people that came to the convention. I've got to enter that into my email system so I can say, hey, tune in, make sure they have y'all's websites and where you can order stuff and follow you guys as well as to follow us. The whole purpose of this is not to charge people as we share like we did at a convention. That this is my place here. We don't have to pay anybody to use it. So we can in this semi-informal, almost church-like. Can I say amen there, Kevin? But this will give us an opportunity because if you believe in God and you believe in Jesus, you believe in paranormal. Okay? If you believe in God, if you believe in any of these prophets, any of these religious icons of history, you believe in the supernatural. If you talk to God and Jesus, or especially if you talk to Jesus, you're talking to dead people. Right? So I want to ease people's pain because a lot of very fundamentalist Christians, oh, don't try to talk to dead people. Well, the Bible has Jesus talking to dead people before he was put to death. And plus, if you are curious, if you want to know something, you've got to investigate. Kevin, you've been dealing with your dolls for over 5 years now.
Yeah, almost 6.
And you emphasized from last week, my understanding was simply that you feel these dolls have a spirit attached from some little girl or little child or something. Is that kind of where you go with that? You feel?
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, especially with child spirits, when, human children, they love what? Toys. So a lot of these dolls that come haunted, if it's a human spirit, it's usually, especially if it's a child, it's because it's something that reminds them of what they enjoyed in life, what they had pleasure in. Now there are adult spirits that gravitate to dolls and other items, and that is usually because if it's a doll, it usually reminds them of someone they once loved. I know someone who has a doll that's haunted by, it's a woman doll, but it's haunted by a male spirit that hangs around it. And when they investigated it, the responses they got EVP-wise was that it reminded him of his wife. So, because it's something familiar to him, he just kind of hung around it. I've always believed, I don't believe that spirits are stuck to like, I can't get away. I think it's more that they just hang around and they go and come when they want to.
So would it be safe to call it kind of energy?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of it can be energy.
Mhm.
I believe we leave behind energy a lot.
So the bottom line is, and I just want to start out again by putting people's mind at ease. There are spiritualist churches. Are you familiar with spiritualist churches?
Yeah.
And they have mediumships. In other words, they go out of their way to have gallery readings in the churches, do a psychic reading. That is what the church is based on. And I'm not totally, as far as where I stand does not matter, because I think it's good to ask questions. I think it's good to investigate. And I hope that you learned something. I think that you wouldn't do what you do if you weren't constantly learning, I would hope. And I think that's what we should all do. So are we communicating with dead people? I think that the answer has to be yes all the way through. Because if there's an attachment of energy to a doll, that's an attachment of someone deceased. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Frank has been dealing with paranormal for over 20 years seriously, and I'm sure that before then you had curiosity and played around with it some. Would you agree with any of those things, and what would you add to this conversation?
Well, I would absolutely agree. I didn't, it's kind of like you were saying that from a, if you take a church perspective, that from what many would do, like when you're praying, you're actually practicing what would be telepathy.
Mediumship.
It's ESP, and even for anyone who follows the Bible, I mean, even in there it says that it talks about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and those were gifts of prophecy, the gifts of healing, all sorts of amazing things that we would think of as being supernatural. That today, if we saw someone doing those things, it would probably freak most people out, if they saw it. But yet, right there, and the Bible says, you'll be able to do this. And, I think a lot of people forget that aspect of it. I think they forget that information is there.
You're exactly right. And Jesus, in fact, he said that if you believe I did these things, you'll do greater. You'll do these much more. And I also, and I've written a lot of, I'm looking at this here, I've written a lot of these little books here. Because I think that what we miss a lot of times is that Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you.
Can you use the microphone?
It don't work. Your battery, somebody left it on, the battery's dead. It's a wireless mic, so the battery's dead.
Well, I'll say that, out of everything that mankind has studied, if you look at space, if you look at the oceans, the earth, animals, everything, I think the single most underrated and overlooked thing that exists is the human brain. I believe that people they take for granted the capabilities of the brain. That they forget what our minds can do, how much data our brains can process. Not only does our brain do the essential functions to keep us going, but look at how much data it interprets both physically and extrasensory. And when you consider, when you take that knowledge and then you combine it with, say, like in the Bible, where it says the kingdom is within you, you will have these abilities. I believe that message wasn't saying that, it's this magical thing. It was saying, you have this ability. This is built in you, And if you're someone who, if you believe in God, you believe that He has all these powers, and
it to you.
Right. That,
But because we're streaming it to help, you can turn it down
I'm
some,
about to.
to make sure it picks up a little bit better for the front.
but yeah, I believe that, but I believe the human brain, I think so many people just disregard how powerful it really is. You know, we know more about outer space, solar systems, planets, millions of light years away that we're theorizing about and getting more accurately. And we have more working knowledge of that than we do our own brain. I mean, we know what area controls some functions, but we still don't know how.
Yeah.
We can't define consciousness.
So, Frank, you've read a lot, I can tell. Mad Magazine.
Right. Mostly Beetle Bailey.
Alchemy. What did that lead to?
Well, you know, that, it's funny how, it's a prime example. If you took alchemy and, you know, that curiosity led to, you know, science saying, hey, can this really happen? The same as, how many times has someone written something in science fiction and almost created a self-fulfilling prophecy? I mean, if you think about it, Star Trek, you know, I'm kind of showing some of my age here. I remember,
Don't
you
talk
know,
about age.
you know, I remember the old episodes where, you know, they could touch the little badge on their uniform, talk to anyone, anywhere on the planet. That was fascinating, the global communicator. And now,
I got it on my watch.
right, now you can get it, I mean, mine's outdated, you know, you can get on your watch, you can do it. And, you know, that's, there's so many things. If you look at Jules Verne, you know, like his writings about the moon and then, you know, going undersea, and it's fascinating. First off, for them to have that sort of imagination before any of this technology was there. But, you know, and even Gene Roddenberry and some of his writings. But, you know, it's like the old saying goes, that any form of advanced technology, and this is kind of, you know, a shift here, but any form of advanced technology would be seen as divinity.
Well, that's why I started saying, in fact, I was gonna ask you for your cell phone. If we had been, just 200 years ago, standing downtown Birmingham, or vicinity, whatever was there, and we had the ability to use our cell phones, we would have been gods.
Yes.
You know, just like he uses EVP, he talks, or his dolls communicate with him. What I'm getting, you're saying, is that power, we don't know what's behind that power. Just like they didn't know what's behind the cell phone power. Even though I remind people, all this stuff, these lights, wireless microphones, cell phones, this tent, all this stuff has always been here because it all came from the earth. Nothing's new. It all came, we just learned to take from the earth and say, oh, we can make this. Right. You know, so nothing's new. But the fascinating part about it is, and I'm with you guys, is like, I like to know, and it's like, you can get your spirit box and you can have a conversation with that dog. That fascinates the hell out of me. Pardon me using the word hell. And I've had experiences which I have shared ad nauseum. But the reality is we don't understand, and I don't have a problem with not understanding. In fact, for me, I get a great excitement over the questioning and the investigating. So last week, Kevin got to do a lot of talking at length about his dolls, and I'm not keeping you quiet over there.
Well, you know,
But Frank,
it's his turn.
What got you interested? Well, should we address, what's the name of the dog?
This one is Timothy.
Timothy
Yes.
with a K.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Timothy, if you decide to speak up, don't be ashamed. Okay. Frank looks mean and ugly, but he's not.
These people are strange.
But Frank, what originally in your life, can you remember an instance or a thought that triggered you to say, what's going on here? I want to investigate.
You know, I was always that kid that I had to take everything that I could get my hands on apart to see how it worked. That I wanted to know. It didn't matter if it was a toy I had. It didn't matter if it was one of my dad's tools or a drill or a stereo or anything.
Is that why your dad broke? I mean,
I'm telling you that. I feel so sorry for my parents looking back at it now. But you know, I had to take everything apart and figure out how it worked. And you know, here it is. You know, I'm 40 years old and I never outgrew that. It's just now instead of taking things apart, I'm taking apart ideas and concepts and conducting experiments and trying to test theories versus, you know, plugging things up, trying to test the actual wires and see. But I was, from a very young age, I remember in second grade, you know, all the other kids, I know you'll remember this because we're about the same age, that everybody was reading Clifford the Big Red Dog, you know, that, and the stuff like that, the Sesame Street books, and all that was really popular. And, oh yeah, I was reading Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, Easter Island, UFOs, you know, and that's the kind of stuff that I was reading in second grade. And it just.
I was reading about werewolves in second grade.
Right.
My teacher thought I was crazy.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
so you get into cryptid as well as the dog. You're fascinated with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with me that, you know, I was always fascinated by science. And I think it was part of that wanting to know how everything worked. Well, then here you read these stories about ghosts and hauntings and this other strange stuff. And it's like, well, you know, hey, this isn't in my science book. Why isn't this in there? And, you know, it's like, well, they haven't written anything about how this works. So somebody's got to know how this works.
They're trying to figure it out.
Right, and then you study a little bit more, and it's like, wait, nobody knows how this works. I've got to find this out. And then here I am, you know, 20 years later.
Well, this is why we're not called a church, because we believe in the supernatural. That's what church is about. You identify your beliefs, your God, whatever. My background is in the Bible, just like Kevin's over there. The bottom line is that the difference between we call this the abnormal church. The difference is we don't claim to have the answers.
Right.
We're looking for the answers. You go to mainstream churches, they claim we got it figured out, don't ask us any questions. We're different because we don't have it figured out, and we encourage you to ask the question. So just want to share that little thought there. But Frank, as you went along here, 20 years of going to spooky places. I think you've traveled around the country a lot with this stuff. You probably gave up 2 or 3 good careers looking for ghosts. Probably countless girlfriends gone by the wayside.
You do what?
Maybe you know they've got bigger dolls you can sleep with, right?
I won't go that far.
How do you know they're not attached? Something's attached to one of those, huh?
Well, I can just stand over against the wall and be
Yeah,
happy. I will
lay
sleep
it,
with it.
dress it up, put it in your living room.
You know, it's not as bad as it sounds. I'm saying that. You know, sometimes you can.
Can I have my amen?
Hey, sometimes I'll even fill her.
Abnormal church.
Sometimes I'll even fill her up with helium so she can play hard to get. Oh, don't say that out loud.
He just told the world. All right. Okay. Fascinating stuff. But it is a doll. They call it real doll, right? So, and to each his own, right? The okay. So all these years, and all the girlfriends gone by the wayside. What do you do? What do you do for a living? Well, actually, I don't do anything. I just get ghost all night. Um, what, out of all those 20 years, do you have one of the most profound things that ever happened that just blew your freaking mind and said, I gotta keep on that one thing? It's like a drug. You get, they say with cocaine, you get that one high and you chase that high the rest of your life.
It would be really hard for me to narrow it down to one, but I will say one thing that keeps me going is sometimes I'll wonder about something and it will drive me crazy. And I'll dig, I'll do research, I'll experiment with it, I'll test it, and I'll finally get that answer that I was looking for. But then right along with that answer come about 100 more questions. And I'm up to about 3 o'clock the night that I get that answer, thinking of all these other questions, can't sleep, and it's like that entire weekend following, I'm there barricaded, with the notebook, writing down all these questions and just just captivated in it. And that keeps me going because, it's like, you never find all the answers. And at this point, I'm convinced that if I do start finding more answers than questions, then I'm probably doing something wrong.
A substantial difference, and Kevin, I'm not picking on you, but there's a difference between your approach and Frank's approach, unless I'm misreading you. I want to give you an opportunity to explain yourself. And it's just a curious thing. And some people, you seem kind of just settled in with what you're doing. In other words, you don't seem to be as full of the questioning as Frank does. You seem to be happy that you have discovered something with these dolls and you enjoy collecting them, and you have your EVP sessions with them and whatnot, and the learning, I guess, a little bit about the history of the dolls seems to be where you went, and Frank seems to be on a different plane with his curiosity than you are. Are you kind of at peace with where you are with yours?
Yeah, I guess so, because I grew up with it all my life, and we've had sensitivity in my family, and I've gotten part of that, so I kind of understand. I mean, at least in my belief, I kind of understand what's going on, that there's a whole realm around us we don't always see. Some of us are more in tune to it, or have a gift to be able to see into it. Some of us a little ways, and some even further. And but growing up in a haunted house, it was scary at first, but years of just being around it, you just don't get scared of it anymore. You don't get scared of the footsteps that you hear in the hallway, or the knock on the wall, or the walk in the room and the cabinet door opens and shuts by itself, and or somebody that's not been around is going to come in and probably scream and run. I'm just like, huh, what? Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Can you do that again? And I grew up, in a Christian home, and so I've always understood there was something higher than us. I have believed in spiritual. I've always believed in angels, demons, God, Satan, and I believe that human spirits. I don't think when we die we just go on the ground, just lay there, snoozing. I think our bodies go back to the dust, but our spirits are released. And I believe that some of them still kind of hang around for whatever reason. And I still have my questions. I still question things from time to time, but I just feel comfortable in God that, I feel like I've got this, you don't have to worry about it. So really it's my faith in God that's kept me from really getting to, I just think, God's in control, and whatever it is. And I'm geared more toward helping people when they have problems in their homes, they don't understand what's going on, and we come into their homes. If it's a haunting of the home, we try to find out what it is something natural that they're mistaking. If not, if we can't get an actual explanation, then we got to find out, well, what is this? Is this just human spirit or some other problem? It could be, there's a whole range of things, from human ghost to maybe a teenager causing a poltergeist. You know, we've been in homes with teenage girls that there was a lot of activity going on, and they can, you know, somehow their anxiety can cause that to happen. It can, you know, cause it to manifest.
Couple of questions, if you don't.
Okay.
And I didn't think to ask this the other night, but one of the first questions, because of my upbringing and knowing what my peer group in church would have to say about me, were you criticized by anybody? Given you're from Alabama, given you're with Westover, do you get a lot of negative comments because of what you do and your beliefs in communicating with the other realm?
Yeah, thankfully not in my church, because I go to church that's kind of non-denominational. We kind of follow the Baptist group, but it's very focused on, you know, we're here to serve and not judge, and, you know, things like that. So nobody in my church is, or I don't know if they know, but if they do, they never
Approached you with it.
bat an eye at me. You know what, you know, it's up to God to judge. But yeah, outside the church, you know, other places. I know AL.com
I
came
see
to
look
my
on your
house.
face when you said that.
AL.com came to my house and did a whole segment. They videoed me explaining some of the items. They did a whole article, picture, a couple of dozen pictures of some of the scariest dolls they could find in there. She saw there's some that really do look scary, but they're not. But and he's putting it out there in the comment section. People that are saying, because I did, and he mentioned in the article that I was raised Baptist, I'm still a Christian in a non-denominational church.
But you're not there talking about it.
And they come into that comment section. You call yourself a Christian? You've got demons in there, and this and that.
Oh, yeah.
The Bible says this, and the Bible says that. And I'm like,
Yeah, and you're chasing them.
and I'm like, you know what? First of all, calm down. I said, one lady asked the comment. I said, you know, people like you are the reason a lot of people run away from church.
Yeah.
Because you're pointing that finger, you know, and that's not what we're supposed to be. It's not our job as Christians.
So,
And
okay, go
not
ahead.
to judge. Everybody's out there listening. It's not our place to judge and point a finger. We're supposed to share our belief and
Without me,
You know.
you know, when I put on this Bigfoot Paranormal Convention, and I start putting the word out there and whatnot, I never promoted myself, right? I wasn't one of the speakers, I'm just the organizer of this event. And I got people saying, emailing me saying, have you no shame? And I'm saying, ashamed of what? Why, you know? And then I had other people, interestingly enough, Kevin, within the paranormal Bigfoot community that started attacking me. Yeah, if I could get a cut too, please.
She's my hero.
more ill.
So you get that, but I was curious, especially, I mean, I was brought up in Alabama, I was brought up conservative Christian, just like you were, and I know that if I pulled out a Ouija board or talked to dolls, I couldn't imagine.
Well, I'm not talking to the doll itself, but the spirit
Thank you.
that's with it.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That's just around.
They would
And
say
then-
talking to dolls.
And then
right?
I'm respectful of it, and because I understand, I think of it, especially as a human spirit, it's a human. It's like me and you. I'm not coming here and scream at you and disrespect you. And that's the same way. They're still human. They're just spirits, but they still want that respect.
Did you want some coffee?
Every cup was fine with me. I wouldn't be up all night. But people approaching people in the paranormal field approaching the wrong way, going in and being aggressive and trying to antagonize the activity going.
Well, I think some of them watch too much of this reality.
It's like, how do you know that spirit making that noise in your grandma and you're cussing her out and telling her to come slap
Well, I
you?
did that.
old demon.
I did that to my grandma when she was still alive.
I mean, just be
I
respectful.
came from a pretty rough family.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I have a hard time with people not giving the spirit a chance to communicate.
Yeah.
You
They're
have to be.
constantly bombarding it with questions.
And as I watch your videos, you're very patient, you're very
Yeah.
calm, and you do give a lot of time.
And those I'm doing snippets, so really sometimes I'm sitting there just several seconds of silence. See if they want to say something themselves, and then I'll prod with a question. Yeah, I don't like the question after question after question after question to say, you just want to hear yourself talk. You're not even giving them a breath to say something.
They went to the same seminary I did.
You have to give them time to manipulate the device that you're using in
Yeah.
order for them to communicate.
Well, my understanding is, the belief is that it takes a lot of energy to make that happen. Now, Frank, back to you. I'm going back and forth here, guys, if you don't mind. Last week, Kevin got to answer some of these questions, and you haven't had the opportunity. In your experiences, have you run across anything that you would call evil, a demon, something that just really scared the crap out of you, made you want to leave town or change your name?
Yeah, but luckily I got a divorce.
I knew there was gonna be some
Restraining order.
Okay, so you,
Wait, no,
Go ahead.
we're talking paranormal.
if I was a divorce lawyer, I think I'd call myself the exorcist.
Right. I'm telling you, some of the times I've been married, it's been rough. After that 22nd one, I'm pretty mad at me.
Okay, let's go back to paranormal. The real world stuff scares me.
Right. You know, earlier though, I will say when y'all were talking about the be gone demons, I was saying this thing I saw the other day. It was like a little comic where this guy's talking to a paranormal investigator, and he says, "Well, how long has the scary lady been appearing in your pictures?" And the guy says, "Ever since I married her." No, I will say that I have had some experiences that really caught my attention. Now kind of like what Kevin was talking about. Kind of the longer you do it, you really get to that point where you don't get afraid. It's just more like, oh, okay, well, this is what's happening. And that's because, I believe firmly in that principle that the biggest enemy of fear is knowledge. And I think as you do this, you gain experience, you learn things, and you realize the more you learn, the more you realize you have less to fear.
Frank, would you agree then that normal, day-to-day, serious paranormal researchers don't make good reality TV shows?
They would make horrible reality. I mean, I'm talking worse than court TV about during midday.
Because it's not that exciting at the end of the day. You've got to really be wanting to find answers. My experience has been, and I think I mentioned this before, I've had some phenomenal experiences, but they happened when I was not even looking for it.
That, I mean, there's so much that you have to take into consideration. And really with me, I lean more toward the parapsychology side of the house. And, I'm not really that focused on ghosts, spirits, things like that, as I am human consciousness, and how's it affecting the environment, how's the environment affecting it, and how's it here when the body's gone? What are the trace elements that it left behind after it leaves the place? Exactly. And in doing that, a lot of my investigations go for more of a fly on the wall kind of approach. And when someone is having something happen, it's nothing like you see on TV where they make everybody leave the house, they go in after dark, they turn all the lights off. No, you have them, they've got their journal notated of when this is occurring, and you go in under as close to the original conditions that it's happening in as you can, and you try to recreate that event so that you can observe it and measure what you can of it to make a logical conclusion from there. Now, I will say I've had some crazy things happen. I've had tables get thrown at me.
I can understand why.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to my.
That why you got divorced.
We were doing this one case. It was a double poltergeist case. It wasn't just one agent. with the poltergeist, it's basically subconscious energy that has, that demonstrates telekinesis and is detached from the body, but still linked to the subconscious of a living agent. So, one, one living agent in a household is, things get crazy enough. This particular case, we had two in the same household, and, the more that they would upset each other, the more intense it would get.
So I've got to ask you to define something. You're talking about living agent, and you're talking about this poltergeist. Now, how do you get this understanding, and what do you mean by living agent? Kind of define that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Poltergeist isn't a ghost or a spirit. It's basically a poltergeist is our mind's safety relief mechanism. Your water heater has a pop-off valve. If it builds up too much pressure, then it's going to open this valve up, spray some of the hot water off to relieve that pressure so it doesn't blow up. Our mind does that, but instead of hot water, our mind releases energy into the environment, and it does that to relieve stress, to relieve pressure.
So you're saying then that what we see and identify kind of as, I always understood poltergeist to be kind of a playful thing, not a serious evil attack, but inconveniences. Let's put it that way. Would that be kind of a good way?
Noisy ghosts.
Right. It's funny that it does it. The literal translation means noisy ghost, but it's actually not a ghost at all. It's energy from a living person that is linked to their subconscious.
So I've got to interrupt you. How do you come to that definition?
Just from lots and lots of research. The typical poltergeist case is going to be someone, they're under a lot of mental or emotional stress, and the way that it typically plays out, it's like it finally builds and builds till it comes to a climatic event. All of a sudden, they feel better.
Because they released it.
Right. They'll have 2 or 3 days after the release. Now, they won't realize what's happened, but they'll just feel better suddenly. And
So that energy, is that kind of like, make sure I get the word right, telekinesis? In other words, I blow a fuse,
Right.
release valve, and at some point that energy attacks that cup, and that cup slides off the table. Kind of like some people say, I can make this happen.
Right.
And you are making it happen, just subconscious level
Right.
instead of a intentional level. Okay.
What happens a lot of times is, in the progression of events, the people, they'll feel better, when they release that energy. Well, then a couple days pass by and they start noticing, wait a second, something's not right. I'm feeling some kind of energy here. And it's a very similar effect to when you yell over a canyon. You hear that echo coming back at you. You ever notice how it never sounds quite like your own voice when it comes back? Well, you detect that energy there, but it doesn't feel quite like yours. So you think there's a presence in the house, but it's actually linked to your own subconscious.
So, taking everything you just said, and I'm not ignoring you, I'm sorry.
I'm chopped liver.
Taking everything you just said, then do you think it's possible that some people can be so focused and so tuned into their own mind and the power of their own mind that they could force that?
I
And gain
believe
some kind of control over?
I believe that it's possible. I think that it's highly unlikely because just in society in general, and our lifestyles, have us so distracted that most people would never really get the opportunity to obtain that level of focus. But I definitely believe it's possible. And something that I've seen in my own research is a lot of times when you have someone who maybe has a neurological condition, a traumatic brain injury, sometimes even certain emotional conditions, different things like that. Anything that affects the brain wave patterns can also make them more susceptible to not only perceiving things around them, like residual energy or being able to pick up on other people's emotions, things like that, but also make them more prone to creating poltergeistic type of releases. I have one client that I've been working with for a little over a year who initially contacted us thinking that she had a spirit attachment and it was getting angry when she would have a bad day, she would come home, things would move from the house and stuff would be thrown and all of this, and she thought that her having a bad day was angering a spirit that was attached to her. Come to find out, it was her own energy carrying out that anger that she had and that aggression. And it got to the point where even now, she'll have a rough day at work and she'll go home, all of her light bulbs in her kitchen will be blown out. Like literally shattered. It's fascinating stuff.
I want to take a second. We're live streaming, and I think I'll be able to easily get this archived on YouTube here. Abnormal Alabama, right here. Kevin has written several books. Some of them about his dolls, and also Kevin does a lot of fictional writing.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, what I'd like you to do is take a couple of minutes and self-promote your books and your website, your YouTube channel. Let people know how to find you.
Okay. My website is just writerkevinkang.com. I do have my books out there. I've
And
got,
that's W-R-I?
yeah, WRITER, writerkevinkang.com. And if you're interested in reading about my collection of haunted dolls and other items, I've got paintings, tools, and toys, things like that I've collected over the years. You can check out my haunted collection. It's just $10 a copy on my website, and or you can get it on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. And I've got some nonfiction books. So there's one about my old neighborhood I grew up in, The Legends of Indian Narrows, about where I grew up in West Jefferson. I changed the name of the community, so I was afraid I was gonna get sued if I used the real name. I probably wouldn't have, but it does tell the story about my house I grew up in, the activity we had, and several other homes there, and the woods around us. We just had activity everywhere. We had Native American spirits, and it was just very interesting. It was hard to grow up there and not have some kind of interest in the unknown and ghosts and things like that. But and I also have some novels based on some of the haunted dolls and some of my experiences. There's Patty Doll. That's
That's my copy, don't get attached.
that's a novel I wrote based on the first haunted doll I ever had, and I had her here last week on the last episode. Did you read that yet?
Not yet, I haven't had a chance to yet.
I was gonna say, how'd you like it? But I guess I have to wait. So,
Next week, man.
so that's Patty Doll and Tammy Baby. And there's two books, Haunts and the sequel called Into the Vortex, about a fictional paranormal team. But it takes place at real locations around here. It's my way of telling those stories in a fiction based on his stories called At War on the Laffey, which is a real battleship or destroyer that he served on. So there's those books. I've just got a variety of books I've read, paranormal and non-paranormal.
Support this guy. He's trying to quit his day job, clearly.
And the YouTube page, if you want to see videos of the dolls and the EVPs I've caught. YouTube page, if you want to see videos of the dolls and the EVPs I've caught, just look up My Haunted Dolls on YouTube, or you can just go to my website on the link page. There's a link to get there, and to my Facebook, Patty the Haunted Doll on Facebook. And And I've also got an Instagram. I think it's also called My Haunted Dolls. So it's separate from my personal Instagram.
Stay away from his personal stuff.
I'm a starving artist, so buy, act now. And
Yeah,
act
and-
now
and-
the next 10 minutes.
And
Order it,
I
it
want
comes
to
with a
say
box.
the book he's holding there with Doll's face on it, I was very
Yeah.
happy to see at that convention.
Yeah.
He sold every one of those books.
And that doll is from the island of the dolls in Mexico. I actually have that in my house. It came from the island.
Okay, Frank is a prolific author of no books.
He's author of what?
He's got it all stored in his head, and he's more than willing to talk to you all night long if you'll take the time to listen to him. But he did start a paranormal. I think you were the founder of Casper, and that's not the friendly ghost.
Right.
Trust me.
Definitely the unfriendly.
So go ahead.
Right. Well, I mean, really, I don't do a whole lot with paranormal. I just came tonight because I had coffee. And
Free coffee, entertainment.
The biggest spirits he plays with comes from the bottle.
Right. Those are my. I prefer, my spirits distilled.
He's communicating with Jack Daniels a lot. That's where
I have a Ouija board and I just move the shot glass around on it. It is the Casper Paranormal Research.
it's IR, not ER.
Yep,
And what does it stand for?
CASPIR. And actually, tomorrow will mark 6 years that we've had Casper going.
Congratulations. Everybody give him a round of applause. Thank you for our wonderful guest here tonight.
What does
You know-
Casper stand for?
That not a bad milestone.
What does one of our audience asked, what does Casper stand for?
Casper is it's actually an acronym for Central Alabama Society for Paranormal Investigation and Research.
A lot easier to say Casper, trust me.
Right. I'm not smart enough to spell all of that, so I just use the acronym instead, call it Casper. But yeah, we had that going. You can always look us up. It's CasperParanormal.org. Then again, it's CASPIR. On Facebook, all the social media. You can look me up. Frankly, the easiest way to do it is put my name into Google and put the word paranormal behind it, and that will skip you from going past. There's a rapper named Frank Lee. There's a politician named Frank Lee. There's like 50 different Asian guys named Frank Lee that pop up on the first page, and you don't even want to look at the second page. So put paranormal.
Yeah. And befriend him on Facebook because he has the most wonderful memes that he posts every day. He will lighten your day with his comedy on Facebook.
Normal character is
Yeah.
safe.
Don't want
got Bigfoot.
to befriend me because I'm liable to anger you. But frankly, with Casper and Kevin Kane and his haunted dolls, and Kevin does a lot more than just the dolls. That's his number one thing, but he has interest in other things as well.
Yeah.
And Kevin, 2 weeks from now, 1 week from now, Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, I'll be in Savannah, Georgia.
And you're
At
taking
famous
all of us with
martial
you? Was that, he said he was going to help you drive.
Yeah, I haven't been to Savannah in a while. It's about time.
It's his first trip, and
Yeah,
tell
this
him.
will be my first.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
41 years of life.
How long has it been since you've been there, Frank?
Been about 3-4 years.
Okay, not that long ago, because I had to chuckle because Kevin asked me earlier if it was dangerous to walk the streets at night. I thought it's safer there than walking downtown Westover.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
figured, right?
It's very, very
Be
safe.
naive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta make you a list of some places to stop.
Yeah.
I've got several. I'm
Yeah,
staying in the Marshall House, which is haunted.
I can just go ahead and give you the Fat Boy recommendation for some. If you leave Savannah, if you leave Savannah hungry, I'm just
I don't
saying
think I
that
will.
then you
Or
do
sober.
that.
No, I don't think Kevin drinks much.
A little bit, I don't get drunk, but
Don't get-
Yeah, I know, anytime we go somewhere, I have to pull his slack, and it's always so hard.
Yeah.
Somebody's gotta do it.
Barf
I
bags.
have to drink twice,
Well, Kevin don't realize how much effort I put forth to make him look good.
right? No, and anybody watching, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this out here about Kevin. Check out his books and stuff, because you know, we've been talking about how long I've been doing it, and you know, some of the crazy stuff I've seen. But no, you know, when Kevin talks about the collection he's got, you know, I've been in, you know, sanatoriums at night, you know, and all these kind of creepy places. I go in your house, and what's first? Oh my God, where'd you get that? And you know, so I'm telling you, he's got some good stuff. And he's not making this up. It's real.
From last week and a tour that was given before then, I put together like a 2.5-hour video about
It
Kevin.
was 3.5 hours.
Did you watch
How
that?
long? I did.
I tried to watch it and I fell asleep. I'm the one that produced it.
He put himself to sleep.
But his house, Frank is not kidding, his house is a museum.
Right.
If my house were that neat and straight, I'd probably charge for people to come and look at my stuff. But, you know.
And I'm probably one of the most skeptical people on most things that you'll ever meet. You know, I'm that person that questions everything. But you know, you go over to his house, it's like, whoa, he ain't joking. You know,
He's serious, yeah.
That's why I say haunted collecting it for everybody. You gotta, I mean, I've been around it all my life, so I'm not as scared to be with it. But it's not for everybody. There are a lot of people that hate dolls and
Well,
I think
that's
I'm
that's
crazy.
the fascinating thing, and I did, you know, did everybody enjoy the convention a couple of weeks ago?
I had a
Okay.
blast.
I learned, it's the first, I put together something several years ago in Atlanta, similar, but this one, it's been a long time, and I did this one at a different level. And so, I learned a few things that I'm gonna do different next time. While we're chatting, I know Kevin don't have time for me down there at the beach, so he's gonna be doing his thing.
Yeah, we've got the haunted Birmingham tours coming. So.
That's it. So Frank, are you planning on being down at the beach on the 26th?
Any excuse I get to go to the beach.
There will be pots of coffee and a cash bar.
That
The ocean.
you said beach bar and coffee. I'm there.
Yeah. I was gonna just have an open bar, but knowing you were gonna be there, I couldn't afford it, so.
He's already got to know me. Kevin, you've been telling him too much about me. I mean, that,
Well, between you and this one over here, the reality is that we'll miss Kevin.
Oh,
If-
yeah.
If something changes, you can join us,
Be there.
it'd be great. But, I'll go ahead and plug that a minute. And the few things we're gonna do different is we're gonna divide up things a little bit. Some people are interested in Bigfoot that are not interested in haunted dolls. Some people are interested in Bigfoot that are not interested in Frank Lee. It's like, what is this?
I can't imagine
You
that.
know?
But they say it happens.
Well, he's got big feet, so I don't know. Next time, at that event, we're gonna dress Frank up as Bigfoot so people pay attention to him.
Well, you know, before the last one, I had to get a haircut and do some shaving, so I didn't get mistaken for Bigfoot. Because you know, there are all those people there that have been looking for Bigfoot, and I wasn't gonna walk in the door and have like 50 people go, there he is!
Yeah, they weren't gonna shoot you.
Yeah.
They weren't gonna shoot you, but I understand they had bear pepper spray available.
I wasn't taking any chances.
But anyway, that's on the 26th, the weekend. We debated, you know, whether to do it the weekend before Halloween or the weekend after Halloween. Since we found out that Kevin would not be available the weekend before Halloween, we chose that day.
That's fair side.
But, you know, it's a good Halloween theme, right?
Yeah.
And, so Frank Lee plans to be with us down there, 26th. We're still putting in line up of speakers. What we're gonna do is to add on, one subject I'm fascinated with, and I probably believe more in this subject than I do in haunted dolls and so forth. Don't listen to me. But we're gonna add on UFOs and aliens, okay, and alien abduction. So, I think, what do you think about that, Frank? Is that something we should do?
I definitely think we should do it.
And we've got a facility this time, we we got longer to put it together. Last time I did it in less than 60 days and started it right during the Christmas holiday, which is the worst time to plan anything. And I'm surprised it went so well, based on all that. Now we got several months to put it together. The facility holds, I believe, 1,000 people. And we're going to divide it up into sections to where we can have Bigfoot over here and Frankly and his boring stuff over here.
It's okay, I'm gonna bring some of the dolls, fill them up with helium.
Can he bring some of your dolls?
Shoot them out now.
Can we borrow some of your dolls if you can't come?
Yeah.
I don't know, I never let anybody take my
Well, especially after
He says, I'm not letting you borrow, but not Frank. I know Frank, not Frank.
yeah.
Come away, child.
Yeah. We don't want to have any doll molestations going on here. Okay.
Yeah, it's too bad Kevin says he can't make it.
Yeah.
I got the duct tape.
Okay.
So we're gonna kidnap him?
Yeah.
Gonna pay for my hotel room to spend the night.
We've got a bunk bed back in the back part of the place.
Oh, Lordy.
I tell you know what? We're gonna let you serve booze behind the bar.
Let me serve booze.
Yeah.
You
look
can
like
spend a lot of
bartender.
time with him.
I'm speaking, I'm gonna be putting in cups of holy water.
So,
Y'all gonna just think y'all.
so folks, October 26th, the last weekend before Halloween, at Orange Beach, Alabama. Beautiful time of year down there, and the kids will be in school. Thank you, Lord Jesus. and we're gonna have a big day down there. The tickets are gonna go on sale within a week. We want to go ahead and pre-do this thing all the way through. We're gonna do the food differently. We're gonna have more than one food truck pull up there and let people, because last time we ran out of food.
Yeah.
I didn't get to eat
Yeah,
at
they couldn't
home.
afford food.
Right.
And another big thing we're gonna do is make sure we have pots and pots of coffee. That Frank let me know that was the big complaint he had.
Well, you know, I mean, you gotta look at it this way. You put together a whole convention, and you know, I'm the kind of person, you know, I'm kind of skeptical, I'm kind of questioning, so I've got to find something to complain about.
Oh, you did?
And it kind of hurt my feelings that that's all I could find to complain about was there not being coffee. But I'm still mad about that. It's,
Brought me a cup.
I took care of you tonight.
I am
I
a
know.
perfectionist, and it bothered me, that one complaint, really, I couldn't sleep. This thing was like, I gotta cure this. We went out and bought a brand new coffee pot just for Frank here, so I hope, have we appeased that situation? Can we,
yeah, now
can we move away from that now?
I got to find something else.
Well, there's something else, is that Kevin ain't gonna come with us to the beach.
Yeah.
Frank, I will be honest with you.
I'm gonna make a blow up doll and see if I can stick it out there.
Wait a minute, Kevin, I don't think I would suggest that. He might be putting you full of helium.
Shoot me out over the coast there.
I was just thinking, I saw helium on sale the other day.
As you can see, folks,
UFO.
A UFO.
this is an abnormal church here. That's interesting, yeah, we'll have a Kevin abduction.
They will drop me right back down here if they took me.
All right, is anybody in the chat room there with us? Oh, you're Facebook, you're not even with us.
I was
Now,
posting.
Sleep,
I've really enjoyed listening to you guys. And I hope it wasn't too rough on you, Kevin.
No.
If they got the chat room, they saw me, they probably said, I don't know what they're doing.
I'm like a tree. I just bend and bend.
I think we've been reported to YouTube about 50 times. We have coming up in the next Tuesday night or so, Alex Bigfoot Bob's going to be joining us up here. And eventually, if we keep doing this, we will get people here and online with us. And this is a good way to share your experiences. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all like to talk almost as much as I do. So I hope we can keep this up, and I would like people to start showing up and just start sharing our stories together and experiences, and making new friends, networking like-minded people. And Kevin might even find people that bring some more dolls, who knows?
Yeah, I'm bringing it
Yeah.
up.
We are hopefully, I've teased Frank, and he's, I don't know whether to take him serious or not. He says he's working on an investigation that we can go with him on. I've got a 360 camera that we can live stream. That way he can't hide around a corner and roll a ball. Look at that, look at that.
If I hide around the corner, I'm either drinking or sleeping.
But I'm sure we can find something to do for fun and excitement, and there's just a lot of interesting things out there, unexplainable. UFOs. Did I ever share with y'all my UFO abduction, men in black story?
Black.
Are you laughing at me, Kevin?
No.
You know, this is my building, I can kick you out of here.
I'm not laughing.
You know, he's just all riled up.
I know. He got all cocky on me.
No.
Must've been that sermon I gave him earlier. Okay. Well, several years ago, I lived up, if you know anything about Alabama, up on Simmons Mountain in Springville. You know where that is? Odenville, right? The Odenville, Springville line up there. In the woods, a little cabin, just kind of like Frank. I was a bachelor with my German Shepherd dogs. And had a little deck I'd built out there. And somebody started banging on my door, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just, you know, bang, 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 bang. I throw on my bathrobe and I go out. I had a storm door kind of, and I open the door, and rough looking guy, looked like Frank, standing there. And there was a tow truck in my driveway. And he said, "I'm here to repossess this red Mazda." I said, "I've never owned a Mazda in my life. I don't know, you've got the wrong house, you know." And of course, I was half asleep. And I shooed him away. And I went back to bed. And I don't know how much longer it was. I dozed off sleep. Bang, 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 bang. Again. Get up. By now, of course, I'm cursing and go to the door. There's 2 of these guys. You didn't know he had a clone. And 2 tow trucks looking for this red Mazda. I said, "Y'all, go ahead. I don't care. I want to go back to bed. Y'all just look around the property. I don't care. You're not going to find a red Mazda unless somebody parked one and get it back here. I don't know what." And they just kept pressuring me. So I grabbed my phone. I said, I'm going to call the police because y'all got to get on my property. You know, this is insanity. You're just at the wrong place. So they left. I went back to bed. I don't know how much longer it was. Bang, 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 front door. I'm really got a move going now, you know. I go open up the door. This time, it's not the tow truck driver. It's a bunch of guys in suits. I'm talking about 15 guys anyway, in suits and a string of several plain looking, like you said, government cars. So I thought, is this what you get for dial 911? You know, this is Springfield, Odenville, Alabama. I mean,
CSI.
I stepped out on the deck. I thought, well, they're the government. I gotta be safe, right? I stepped out on the deck, and just the roof line of my deck, I could see this huge craft coming over my property. So big that those big black helicopters looked about that small flying around it. I barely got a good look at that thing slowly moving over my property, and I was thrown flat on my face on my deck with a knee in my back. The last thing I remember is a prick of a needle in my neck. Next thing I did was wake up in my bed, feeling that prick in my neck. And never heard anything from anybody about it, except later in the week, I'm on my riding board cutting the grass, and I find a hub of a red Mazda at the front of my property. So, that's it. It's just as clear as day, strange, and that's it. But I know ever since then, my life has been a piece of cake, like somebody's looking at it after me.
They got that little program in there watching.
I mean, it's really, that's the truth. That's no made up,
You
nothing.
didn't drain that? That was something that
Clear as day. This has happened like 15 years ago or so.
called policing you when you
Are
were.
you kidding me?
I guess not.
Every time I see a
That'd be a
government
whole
official,
new
I
one.
will leave.
That'd be a whole
Yeah.
nother one.
I have seen other interesting things in the air, if you know what I'm saying, and I've seen other paranormal experiences, full entities and so forth. And I have no answers, and people say, "What do you think it is?" And it's like, I don't know. You know, unidentified flying object. Well, if you know it's no longer unidentified, it'd be identified flying object. So it's unidentified, but it's just like a ghost and anything else. I'm not one of those that when I hear something or sense something, I'm not one of those that says, "Oh, that's gonna be Aunt Susie that died 5 years ago because this is her house." I don't assume anything like that. Number one, part of my Bible training said that the devil keeps presenting himself as an angel of light. It's like, who are you really talking to here? If you know, you don't
Yeah.
see. So I think you've got to question everything very carefully. To give another little take on everything we talked about tonight, energy. I believe that it is all energy, and I believe that, unfortunately, we depend on old, ancient thought too much. They don't know what we know today. Like we talked about earlier, if we had the devices we've got, we'd have been gods. You talk about you wouldn't need to blow up dolls, maybe.
Burned at the stake.
You know what I'm saying?
You been in Salem, you get burned at the stake.
Yeah, well, according to what part of the world you're in, we might have been dead.
Well, you know, think of this, that, you know, it's only been, you know, people, a lot of and I love science. That's one of the things that keeps me going. But a lot of the scientific community is so overly egotistical that they think, well, we can't answer that, it doesn't exist. And that is the wrong answer. I mean, it hasn't been, what, 3 years ago that we finally proved that gravitational waves exist after Einstein theorized about them over 100 years ago. And, you know, here it is. He says, yeah, I think it's out here. I believe this is it. This is the equation that I have. Over 100 years passed by, and we're just now finally getting an initial measurement. And then you think of, you know, if you've ever looked at one of the maps of the galaxy, you know, and you see that swirl formation, all the stars, the way they're lined up. What holds those stars together? It's not just gravity.
It's called dark matter. We're still trying to figure out what that dark matter is.
Exactly. That, you know, people, they don't know what's antimatter.
With the naked eye, we just see nothingness, but there's got to be something cohesive about it. It's just like, you don't see anything here, but there's air
Right.
that we're very dependent on for life. Yeah.
There is so much that we don't know, and for someone to say that there's no room within science for the paranormal, they don't know science.
Well, that's like I said, you go back in history and the things that they put, like you suggested, they burned you at the stake for, you know, was because they didn't have an understanding of things, and we're still learning. What energy force is Kevin tapping into? You know, he has a feeling from his background of what he believes that energy force is, but 100 years from now, they may look back at Kevin and say, where was this fucking mind?
Something as simple as bacteria, you can't
Yeah.
see it.
Well, penicillin could have saved how many lives through history? It's always been there. We just didn't know. All this, like I said before, it's always been here. We just know how to tap those resources, and that's where we're coming into. Kevin's tapped into something. I'm not saying he's not getting what he thinks he's getting. The only thing I question is, it may be a little bit different than what his mind is assuming now, because we are in this, if you look back through history, every generation thought, we the top dog, we got it figured out, we're the modern science. modern science. Remember Bryce's Hospital? Remember frontal lobotomies? That was modern science. You remember, it wasn't until the year after graduating from high school is when they stopped the Tuskegee Institute injecting black guys with syphilis. This is where humans have been. So if you get too cocky, like you said, think, we got it all figured out. Remember, 200-300 years from now, they're gonna look back at us like them archaic, stupid people back then. You have to accept that to grow, in my opinion.
Well, you know, it's kind of like, if you think of it, I mean, just the progression of, I think that very much, like, kind of like you were saying, what we're calling paranormal now.
Might be normal.
In 100 years from now, you know, maybe less, it's gonna be in an 8th grade biology book. You know, that, and it kind of like, if you look back, I mean, barely 100 years ago, if someone, you know, if you had an epileptic seizure,
It was demon possession.
right, you didn't get a doctor, you got an exorcist.
Yeah.
And now, if you said, hey, this person's having a seizure, call an exorcist, then, I mean, they would lock you up for using this person. Right, and because it's just common knowledge, and I think that what we consider paranormal now will be the same
Can
way.
you imagine, we know about rabies now, can you imagine 100 or something years ago when somebody had a foam at the mouth, can you imagine?
Right.
How much holy water they splashed as well?
But that's exactly it. So I encourage these investigations. I encourage these questioning because I just feel that we like I said, I'm older than you guys by at least 20 years, and I look at this thing and it's like all the research, and if you ever get to where you want to work on your PhD, don't bother me. It's a lot of work. And the investigation, the writing, and all this stuff you have to go through to get to a certain point with this stuff. And then at the end of the day, you sit there and say, we still don't know it.
Right.
All this, and we still don't know.
Open mind. I say there's people that have minds that are as closed and still trapped. That's the most dangerous thing.
Here's the
Because
saying.
nothing can
Here's the
get in.
saying for you, Kevin. Your mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like I tell people all the time that if nothing else, what I've learned in 20 years of research is every day I learn a little bit more of how much I don't know.
That's it. That's it.
You know?
Yeah. And it's fascinating because we all think that we're, oh man, look at this. We got the internet. We got cell phones. Look at that. I can talk into that mic. There's no wires connected. And boom, it goes over there and all this stuff. And a few hundred years from now, they're going to look back and say, man, them cavemen back then, you know?
Because what's that big old stick with that ball?
Yeah, we don't need all that. All we do is think it. It goes together.
Here's something that's just a short term that my 16-year-old probably does not realize. She probably doesn't remember not ever having Bluetooth.
Yeah.
A Bluetooth device.
Kevin don't remember not having a cell phone.
Yeah, I do. Well, I was back in the 80s when we had those corded clunky phones that hung on the wall. Ding, hello.
Right.
You
know,
cord gets
Oh,
tangled.
okay. You don't remember
You're fancy
rotary
to have a
dial.
home
Yeah,
cord.
yeah, my grandpa had rotary dial. Took forever to dial.
I know everybody else was getting those cordless phones, and you know, we grew up poor. All I could get was a phoneless cord.
You know what's funny? Have you noticed when they did get cell phones, they started out big and they got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger because now we watch TV and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, literally, they say that your smartphone has more computing power than the craft that took us to the moon. Really? But,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think it's amazing. I've lived through this. I remember when they came out with a beta and a VHS and all that. We had those big bulky cameras that analog film and, you know, and that was a big thing, you know. And nowadays it's like, you got this little card that you lose because it's so tiny.
It holds so much stuff.
where's my SIM?
Yeah, but we don't know, and I think, and again, I think this is great. I think it's to have these conversations and to get out and research and whatnot. Back to the paranormal again. You've done paranormal research in cemeteries?
I've done a little bit. Um, you know, honestly, I've never really gotten a whole lot of activity in cemeteries.
You know why?
I don't think there's anybody really hanging around there.
There is, but people haven't not figured out properly. We have done thermal camera stuff and whatnot in cemetery, Fraternal Cemetery, if you know where that is, up in north to northwest Birmingham.
Tri-City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, beautiful place. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, it's a perfect setting for a Stephen King
Right.
movie. And people have argued this ever since I've looked at paranormal. Like, why would anybody be haunting a graveyard? It's not the person buried in the graveyard. It's the person that outlived the person that's visiting
Yeah.
and mourning, that after they die, they're still coming back, that residual energy to that grave.
You know, I've had the same discussion about, you know, I've heard so many people talk about funeral homes being haunted and creepy and all this, and you know, I would absolutely agree with that because, you know, like I say, I had the same exact discussion about, you know, if you look at a funeral home, it would make perfect sense for there to be, oh, sure. I won't never do that.
We do have a wait staff here.
Right. That, thanks, man, you're my hero. But like you think of a funeral home, you know, you have, it's not that someone, I mean, all common sense, why would someone want to hang around because their body was there for 2 days? But you have a
Because I
whole,
love myself.
right? It's like, hey, I was here. Check in. But you have a whole group of people coming in all at the same time on a regular basis, all in a similar mindset, you know, and grief is, and a lot of times anger.
And there's a lot of energy there. A lot of
Yeah.
energy there.
Very powerful emotion.
Well, back in my university days, during breaks, I worked at Marshall Donnelly Cole's funeral home up in Nashville. It sits right on Centennial Park. Old funeral home. And to get down in the basement area where they kept corpses before they had been put in, dressed and whatnot, the elevator was one of those that you took the gate, bang, you know,
Right.
pushed the button, you know. Spooky place.
Right.
But my peers back then would pick on me. It's like, aren't you scared to be there in the middle of the night, be a thunderstorm, and this old rickety building with dead corpses all around you, and freak these guys out? It's like, I've always been more scared of the living. They would say, what would you do if one of them jumped up out of the casket? I said, dial 911, they're not dead.
Right.
You know?
That is not necessarily true.
Well, I know there's things, but after they're embalmed, they're not
Yeah,
going
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah, definitely.
You actually take rods and disconnect, you know, these muscles and whatnot, so pretty much the ends that popping up in the casket stuff. But anyway, I agree with you on all that. What no person's body, but the energy you're talking about, it goes back over and over and over, just like with the dolls. It's all this energy.
Yeah, it's a perfect recipe for a residual haunting or a place memory to occur. Same as with, you know, a church. You know, how many times you heard people talk about a haunted church? But if you think about it, you've got a group of people all meeting several times a week, having a very highly emotional experience all at the same time, and you know, hospitals, same way, prisons, jails, you know, all these different places. It's, you know, that it would be more surprising to not have some type of residual activity going on there than to find it there.
Kevin, any comments?
No, I guess I'm talking out.
Well, and I will say, you know, like with the objects and stuff, you gotta think, if that energy can absorb into building materials, why couldn't it
Yeah.
absorb into an object?
That's what I say, I was skeptical about this, and that's the same thing now that I say,
In my early days,
finding out they are haunted.
late 50s, 60s, this paranormal thing was really at a peak back then. I know y'all guys don't remember that. You were dead. Uh, literally. Um, but and people were scared of Ouija boards, you know, all these things we were warned about. Don't pick up that book. Like a lot of people say, don't pick up the Harry Potter books. Or, you know, there were all these fears out there, and I mean, serious. They were not playing. I mean, it wasn't like it was a passive thing. If they would try to burn something and swear that it wouldn't burn. They would toss something in the river and find it in their drawer the next day. All kind of stuff. So it's not just dolls, you know. And the fear factor back then was a lot greater than it is today. They were really, like I said, they warned the ladies in the congregation, if you want to wear a wig, don't get one made of real human hair, because you don't know where it came from. That woman could have been possessed, could have been a witch. Seriously, they preached this from the pulpit. It was very serious stuff. But energy, as far as I'm concerned, can attach itself anywhere, and it don't have to attach itself. It can be just here. I think that it's a form, and I think we have this, we stick labels, and I think these labels sometimes fool us, because we get this label stuff instead of the reality of what we're talking about. I think that Christianity is 100% teaches reincarnation. If you die and come back as a spirit, you've been reincarnated. 100%. We just get hooked on these labels. We get hooked on these words. And I think that in the paranormal world screws us up a lot, because we get hung up on these labels and somebody's interpretation or defining of what that label means. Because the reality is, when I studied the Bible, when I studied the teachings I grew up with, it's like, well, I believe in the paranormal. I'm talking to dead people. When I say I'm praying to Jesus in the name of Jesus and so forth, I am invoking a dead person. He walked the earth, he was killed. It's a dead person. And reincarnated. Jesus was dead for 3 days, resurrected, went to heaven, came back as a different type of creature than the physical being we're used to. Personally, I think that given we're energy, I think that when we die, that our energies can go in different directions. Something will happen to that energy. You could become part of a tree, part of a dog. I think that sometimes a clump of that energy will attach itself to that doll or something, and that clump of energy will have some memory attached to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you get little chirps instead of full paragraphs. Because it's just a little clump of that energy that made you up, that carried a little bit of that memory with it. That's just my definition from, you know.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you use the word reincarnated, because, I mean, if you think about it, you know, that if you take a consciousness or a spirit, or, you know, however a being, then, you know, you are incarnated into your body when, you know, whereas at death, whatever, you would be discarnate. And then, of course, if you came back into another body, then, of course, that's where reincarnate would be. But that's actually, I mean, so much of the paranormal is looking at that discarnate being, and, you know, that detached consciousness, and, you know, how does it, you know, how much of it is here, how much of it is, you know.
If you look at and don't think, I'm not picking on anybody's belief or anything, so please, nobody view it like I grew up a Christian. I was trained in Christianity. I was trained in the Bible. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just looking at it outside that bubble I was born in the big world view. And I realized that my view and interpretation of this God, this creator, this universal being, is defined by when and where I was born. If I'd been born 5,000 years ago in Egypt, I'd be saying, oh, Horus.
Right.
If I'd been born 3,000 years ago in the Middle East or in Greece, I was saying, oh, Mithra. If I'd been born when Sir Isaac Newton was walking the planet, I would say, oh, Zeus. And I think it's all good. It's just our definition and the labels we attach to it, and we get caught up on those labels. So we end up focusing on labels instead of the realities, and I think that's what screws us up. Paranormal research, even Bigfoot research, we get caught up in these labels. And I think it all boils down as far as our treatment to each other, and I write about this a lot, about set aside these differences, let's act like human beings and treat each other in a humane way. Because I don't care how you view God, your Savior is Jesus, that's cool, okay? I can say my Savior's Hoo-hoo. That's cool too, it's just a label. And if we could get beyond labels and dig into realities, we can improve, I think, and maybe learn a little bit more about these things going on. I accept your labels, I accept everybody's labels. But I also made to put the labels aside and say, what are we really talking about here? Labels aside, what are we describing? That's why I come in with a reincarnation, what you just discussed. Because I think that's at the root of it, that's what we're talking about. Labels aside.
It's kind of funny how some of the conversations that we end up having just go full circle like that, isn't it? You know?
Well,
But we had some good conversations on it.
I really enjoyed what both of you have said. I've learned a lot about Kevin in the last couple of times we've conversed. And
Picked on me,
if you didn't have that infectious laugh about you, and it is infectious, and Frank, I've really enjoyed. I've listened to you more carefully tonight than I did at the convention because I was running around everywhere. But you're quite a better speaker than I gave you credit for. Reading your memes, I thought this is drunken, coffee drinking fool. Don't have a clue what's going on. He's just going down and saying, was that a ghost? Oh, I don't know.
No, the problem is I was sober.
Okay.
functioning alcohol.
Right. On the drive over, I had enough time to get a few drinks down.
Well, I know Kevin, it's almost past Kevin's night time. We're going 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
He's just sitting up there kind of like a,
I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin.
Guys, I really appreciated it. I enjoyed this. I don't know about you guys, but I learned a lot from y'all. Because we're going to have fun, aren't we, Frank?
We are.
RiderKevinKane.com.
Remember, folks, you don't have to watch this on YouTube. We got room in here for a bunch of people. It's 1430 Highway 47 South. Make sure you put the South in or you end up in Chelsea. Columbiana, Alabama. It would be nice to have some people in here to ask some of these guys questions and not have to hear my obnoxious voice all night long. And Kevin would love to be talking to somebody besides me too. But but October 29th at the port at the wharf.
26.
26.
October the 26th.
26. And I'm thinking, we're so close to Halloween, I'm thinking we're going to have a costume contest. And as you see, Frank, I'm already dressed. So.
Yeah, he's dressed as the devil over there, with all his black.
But we want to have some fun.
I'm dressing up as a coffee drinking weirdo.
He-
We don't need a costume.
I tell you what,
Quick and easy. That's
we're
what
going to make him a special costume. It's going to be a coffee pot.
You can live my personal life out here.
If anybody enjoyed any of this insanity, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, because the intention, if I can keep Frank sober long enough, is to do this every Tuesday night. And to have you guys, this started because we didn't get time for the Q&A at the convention. And Kevin felt like he had some things he wanted to share, and some books to sell mainly. And next week, I hope Bigfoot Bob's with us. He had a couple of conflicts last week and this week. And what I would like, I don't know if either one of you guys know, but I'd like to get a psychic in here and talk to us. Kevin, what do you think about psychics?
There's another thing I get skeptical on, but I've met some people that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, cause they knew things they couldn't have
It'd take a hell of a
known.
person,
And
it'll take a hell of a person to make the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
then there's others that will only tell you something if you pass over that couple $100, and that's the ones that they just want to wring their necks. It's like, people that really do have the talent, you're making them look bad, you know?
So what about you, Frank?
Well, very much like Kevin, I'm very skeptical. However, I have seen some things. I know some people that just have amazed me, both in things that they can do as far as knowing things that they shouldn't know, prophetic dreams, being able to read emotions, walk into a place, know the history of it. And, I believe that there's some people that are, quite talented with it. And I think we all have that potential. I just think that most of us don't have the focus or whatever to be able to hone that. And I include myself in that. I am about as gifted when it comes to ESP and those type of abilities as that cup of coffee. As a matter of fact, probably this cup of coffee is more perceptive than I am as far as ESP goes. But I have seen some people that were exceptionally accurate and talented. It's phenomenal. Even remote viewing, and, and our government even has been fairly well convinced for the most part. They spent over 20 years and $20 million in the Stargate project, training the psychic spies, and had some successes with it, actually.
So, next time, if you're gonna be back next Tuesday?
Should be able to.
Okay. You ever heard of the Black Knight satellite? Have you heard that?
I've heard that name before, I don't know.
All right, kind of get freshed up on it, because I want to get your opinion on the Black Knight satellite that's been going around for more years than we've been alive. And
I heard that, I've seen YouTube.
quite an interesting story behind it. Now, you live in Westover, which is not
Yeah.
far from Silicaga.
Yeah,
You know much about Silicaga?
yeah, I know Jim Neighbors there, we've done investigations there, and
What about the guy that got struck by lightning twice, and then his grave got struck by lightning twice?
I don't know if I heard that, know about the meteor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the meteor.
Bill Lightning Bill Cosper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last time it hit his grave, it destroyed his tombstone. The family got fed up and just let the tombstone sit there.
Dr. Graham, I got a question for these guys. Do y'all believe that parents suppress their children's abilities? A lot of kids have imaginary friends.
Yeah, I
Oh,
do
absolutely.
believe. I mean, mine was suppressed from, being a Baptist home, is like, you're supposed to believe in that,
If we
So-
nurture our children toward that and let them be free to be themselves, do you think their abilities grow as they get older?
I think so, they
Yeah.
don't lose
Well,
it.
I was very
as-
blessed. My family did not suppress my invisible friends. They were just glad I had a friend.
They said just let him go.
Well, and two, I mean, kind of what sets us apart, like humans, from any other animal is, almost practically every other species on the planet are all instinct driven. And, you'll see it the way that, nonverbal communication, quite effective nonverbal communication between species and between animals of the same species. That's intuition at its best definition, and people don't realize that. Whereas humans, we fight our intuition and push it back because we forget that, we're still animals.
And there's another big difference between us and all the other species. There's two big differences. One of them is we wear clothes. They
Right.
don't.
Right, well, that and cooking our food.
Well, and we pay to live here, and nobody else does.
But we push logic to the front and ignore those instincts and really fight them. And the more we do it, the less of a fight there is. And it just becomes second nature to push that
we're gonna have to let Kevin go to bed. He's there rubbing.
I'm sorry, I went into it too deep of a subject.
All right. Again, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna archive this.
Thank you.
I may download it and kind of edit some to get rid of some of Frank's obnoxious.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed
Got that
this,
stuff
guys.
about
Really,
the
thank you
ball.
guys for showing up tonight. If you know somebody that you would like to bring along, let's have some guests in here, because I'd like for somebody else to ask questions besides me, just kind of standing here and, you know, and, this I could do, you know, and enjoy it and bring other people. If you know somebody, I'd like to have some kind of a psychic, because I'd like to get a feel and, you know, kind of put them to the test. I believe his stuff over there. What it is, I'm not gonna, I know what he thinks it is, and I'm not gonna argue and dispute that.
Don't worry.
See, he's gonna take care of
It's just a
Frank,
steel man.
Frank hasn't really presented anything to speak of.
He presented himself, I mean.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't, you know, I'm cautious about presenting things, you know, there was that one.
okay, here we go. Next time, we're gonna have a little bit of discussion about the Black Knight satellite.
Okay.
And then we're gonna put a Ouija board on this table,
Oh, wow.
and we're gonna have Kevin lead us in a communicating and bring 2 of your dolls.
Why not spirit box?
We can do a spirit
Okay,
box.
spirit box, we'll do a
There
spirit
we
box.
go. Hey, why can't I step out? Y'all can do it.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, guys, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Yes, sir, we appreciate you.
Kevin, this guy's got the most infectious smile. You can't stay mad at him for anything in the world. And when he's mad at you, he laughs. That's the scary part.
As long as he doesn't take my personalized autographed copy of my book.
See that laugh right there? It's like, talk about Satan. Oh, okay, let me shut this down
Shut
here.
that down, please.
Oh, I'm still alive.
Oh, Lord.
Just don't take my copy of the book.
Okay.
Hey, wait a minute.
It's personalized.
Kevin, don't move. What's behind you?
The shadow.
What is that? Oh, that's a screen. I'm sorry.